Welcome to episode 136 of Gods and Heroes of Ancient Greece. My name is MyLinda Butterworth, and today we continue with the tale of Odysseus and the story of Nausicaa. While Odysseus slept, Pallas Athene, his patron, busied herself in his behalf. She hastened to the island of Scheria, where the Phaeacians had built their city. They were governed by wise King Alcinous, and it was his palace that the goddess turned her steps. Here she went to the chamber of Nausicaa, the king's young daughter, who in loveliness and charm was like the immortals. She was sleeping in a spacious room, and at the doors were two handmaids who kept watch over her. Athene approached the girl's couch as quietly as a breath of air. She assumed the shape of one of her playmates and said to her in her dream, "What an idler you are! Your mother will not be pleased with you. The cupboard is full of unwashed clothing. What would you do if you were betrothed tomorrow? You would lack clean garments for yourself and for those who escort the bride. So rise with the dawn to wash the robes and tunics. I myself will help you, so that the work goes more quickly. You know you will not be single for long. Have not the noblest among your people been courting you these many months?" The dream came to an end. Swiftly, Nausicaa rose from her couch and went to her parents. Her mother was already seated at the hearth, spinning purple thread with her handmaids, but the king met his daughter at the door. He was about to go to a council of lords he had called for that morning, but the girl stopped him, took him by the hand, and said coaxingly, "Dear father, have them make ready a wagon so that I can take my clothing down to the river to wash it. You too must have clean garments for the council and your 5 sons, 3 of whom are still unwed. Always want to look trim and fine for the feast and the dance, and it is I who must attend to all these things." So said the girl, for she was too shy to speak of her own betrothal. Her father, however, guessed what was in her mind and said with a smile, "Go, my child. You shall have a big wagon and mules to draw it. Tell the servants to harness them at once." Soon after, the girl and her handmaids loaded the wagon. Her mother gave her a goat skin of wine, bread, and other food for the day, and when Nausicaa had swung herself up on the wagon, she added a flask of oil so that she and her maidens could anoint their bodies after the bath. Nausicaa herself took the reins and the goat and guided the mules to the pleasant shore of the river. Here she and her companions unyoked them, let them pasture on the thick grass, and took the clothes to the washing place, where they put them into the trenches dug in the earth for this purpose, which filled with water from the river. Her handmaids washed the clothes and stamped on them to remove the stains. Then they rinsed them and spread them on the banks, where the clean pebbles formed a shelf of stone. When all was done, the girls bathed, rubbed their bodies with fragrant oil, merrily ate the food they had brought with them, and waited for the sun to dry their washings. They decided to while away the time with playing ball in the meadow. They laid aside their headgear, which was a hindrance to swift motion, and Nausicaa, who was taller and fairer than all the others, sang as they played. Finally, Nausicaa threw the ball to one of her playmates, but Athene changed its direction so that it fell into the river, where the current was swift and strong. At this the girls gave little shrieks of distress, and Odysseus, who was lying nearby under the olive trees, awoke. He half rose and listened. "Where am I?" he asked himself. "Have I come to savage shores, peopled with robbers and murderers? But those are surely the voices of girls, or perhaps nymphs of springs or hills. It may be that I am among friendly people after all." As he was pondering these things in his mind, he reached out with his sinewy right arm and broke a thick-leafed bough from the twisted tree to cover his nakedness. When he emerged from the thicket holding it in front of him, he seemed like a shaggy lion among all those delicate girls. His hair was still matted with salt foam and seaweed. Taking him for a monster, the girls fled in all directions. Only the daughter of Alcinous remained. Athene had breathed courage into her heart, and bravely she faced the stranger. Odysseus did not know whether to clasp her knees or keep at a distance, and asked her to give him clothing and pointed him the way to the houses of men. He decided that this latter course might be better, and so he called to her, I don't know whether you are a goddess or a mortal, but whoever you may be, I implore your protection. If you are a goddess, you must be Artemis, for you are lithe and beautiful as she. But if you are mortal, then your parents and brothers are blessed indeed. Their hearts must dance with delight to have so lovely a daughter and sister, and how happy will be he who takes you home as his wife. But look graciously on me, for I have suffered almost unendurable hardships. 21 days ago I left the island of Ogygia. A storm tossed me about on the ocean and finally cast me ashore here, where I know no one, and no one knows me. Have pity on me. Give me clothing. Show me the city you live in, and may the gods give you what your hearts desire, a husband, a home, and quiet happiness. Nausicaa answered him, Stranger, you do not look like a base or a foolish man. You have turned to me in my country, and you shall lack neither clothing nor whatever else a suppliant has the right to expect. I shall take you to our city and tell you the name of our people. These shores and these fields are inhabited by the Phoenicians, and I am the daughter of Alcinous, their king. So she spoke and called to her maidens, assuring them that there was no cause to fear the stranger. But they hesitated, and each urged the other to go first. Finally, they obeyed their mistress, and while Odysseus washed the salt water from his limbs in a hidden cove, they laid out for him a tunic and a mantle. And after he had bathed and anointed himself, he put them on. And Athene made him more stately and handsome. She smoothed his hair, and it curled like the petals of hyacinths, and she shed radiance over his features. Tall and beautiful, he left the shelter of the bushes and seated himself at some distance from the girls. Nausicaa looked at him with wonder and said to her companions, Surely all the gods cannot be against this man. One at least must be for him, and has brought him to our coast. How insignificant he seemed when first we caught sight of him, but now he looks like an immortal. If only he were one of our people, and fate had chosen him to be my husband. But now quickly, girls, let us give him food and drink. And Odysseus satisfied the hunger and thirst he had suffered for so long. Then the wagon was loaded with clean garments. The mules were yoked once more, and Nausicaa again took the reins. But she asked the stranger to follow on foot in the company of her handmaids. Do this, she said to him with all kindness, while we go through the fields and meadows. Soon you will see the city. It is circled by a high wall on all sides except where it faces the sea, and there it is protected by a wide harbor with a narrow entrance to it. You will find the marketplace and a splendid temple to Poseidon, besides which ropes, sailcloth, oars, and other wares for seamen are made and sold. For our people have not much use for bows and arrows. They are a nation of sailors. Now, when we approach the town, I should like to avoid cause for idle talk. A peasant might meet us and say, Who is that tall, handsome man following Nausicaa? Where did she pick him up? Most likely she intends to marry a stranger, and that would mean disgrace for me. I myself would not like it if a friend of mine were seen with a stranger before the day of her marriage. And so, when you come to the grove of poplars which is sacred to Athene, and to the spring which rises there, and the winds through the meadows, wait for a little while, just until you think we have reached the city. The grove is no farther away than a herald's call can travel. Then go on. You will easily recognize my father's palace. Go there and clasp my mother's knees. If she feels kindly disposed towards you, you may be certain that you will see the land of your fathers again. So said Nausicaa, and drove her wagon slowly, so that her companions and Odysseus could follow. At Athene's grove, the hero fell behind and said a fervent prayer to his protectress. The goddess heard him, but she feared the anger of her father's brother Poseidon, and so she did not appear. And here is where I end my tale for today. But I'll be back with more tales, many more tales. Until then, my friends, enjoy the journey.